Hey guys, check this out. I am officially now sponsored by Dubby. Dubby is a clean energy drink made to give you focus with no crash. If you guys are like me, you're always needing a burst of energy, especially with one with no crash. Dubby contains vitamins, amino acids, a nootropic, and 150 milligrams of caffeine. It keeps me awake with no jitters, guys. Check it out. Merch link is in the bio. Dubby.
We hate that! You already know who it is. It's the radioactive pop with Danny Limelight, United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance blog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Poppy.
Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the PreParty, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your premier source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. Again, I'm Jay Cal, and I'm happy to be here. It is a Tuesday, and it feels weird, man. This ain't natural. You know, consecutively, I don't know, some 160, an awful lot of Tuesdays were filmed back to back to back, going all the way to the second or third week of when Power debuted back in 2019. There has been content every Tuesday that was connected to either a new episode of the NWA Power, a primetime live, some sort of NWA content. And I gotta tell you, it feels a little hollow being here on a Tuesday, knowing full well that when this show ends in exactly 1 hour, there will not be a program for you to go and watch. There will be no NWA Power. There will be no primetime live. There will be no NWA content until February 6th, the Tuesday, the second Tuesday of the month. And it's a little disappointing because I got to be honest, we know that the NWA did shoot a bunch of content over the weekend. Of course, it was part of their signature live event, which was the event that took place at the Revolution Studios in Tampa, Florida, where they filmed, Paranoia. We know that there is a new TV champion in some shape or form. We don't know if that is Max the Impaler. We don't know if that's Mims. We don't know the status of the TV title, and we won't know till February. Boyle wants us to know that the set of tapings was so good. I saw some photos, and it gave me kind of some ECW vibes. Maybe I didn't see the right photos. The other, we know that we had a ultimate match of death, I think is what they called it, for the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, it's hard for me to believe that if our World's Heavyweight Champion, Nick Aldis, holy shit, this is a weird Tuesday. Our World's Heavyweight Champion, EC3, Okay, Poyo did have the ECW vibe. We know that if our jeez, let me try again. Flustered, centered, focused. If the world's heavyweight champion EC3 lost the title, I think we would have heard about it. Thanks, boy. I did need that bitch slap. If EC3 would have lost the title, I think it would have been all over the place. I think we would have seen Matt Cardona with a celebration video. I think we would be hearing announcements about that. Plus, there are several matches going forward where EC3 is already booked to defend his 10 pounds of gold. Wait a minute. Poyo, please elaborate. There will be something new today? Ultimately, this is news to me. I was unaware that there was any new NWA content until February the 6th. What am I missing, Poyo? I just went to the YouTube channel. I don't see any up and coming live videos or. Poyo, help me out here. I feel like I'm losing my mind. There won't be anything from the tapings, and it's not exactly an NWA Power, but there is content. I'm all about it. Hey, that's great. That's good news. That's good news. Yeah, I do. Like I was under the impression, Poyo, and please feel free to keep flooding the comments because I don't know what's going on. I was under the impression that there would be no more NWA content until Power, which wasn't going to happen until February the 6th. Now, if you're telling me that there's content today, this is news to me, as I had not seen anything reported that there would be fresh or even best of content for the channel. As far as I know, according to my team, there will be a broadcast. This just handed to me, late breaking news, there will be some content today. That's, again, Poyo, that's all new information, but I'm excited to hear it. Let's see. Bobby Batito asked about the United Wrestling Network. And Bobby, I'll get to that momentarily. Let me get a drink of water here. Drink a W, excuse me. That is good news, Poyo. It's good news that there will be something new today. And let's talk about that in a minute. We'll talk about the United Wrestling Network. I was at the tapings this past Sunday night, which is kind of awkward for so often being used to going to a Tuesday night taping for the last few years. It was weird going on a Sunday night. Jeremy says, bitch slap, are you talking about Russo's failed women's wrestling promotion? Is that a real thing, Jeremy? I've never heard of that before. Noob's in the house. Jeremy's in the house. Of course, the illustrious Poyo Del Mar's in the house. Bobby Batito's in the house. Rosville's in the house. Rosville was holding it down for about an hour before showtime, so thanks for that, Roz. Yeah, breaking news. There's nothing exactly new and original, so I'm suspecting there's a best of and a push to rejoin us. See, but that's still content, Poyo, and that's great. I think that's a great idea. Again, there's been nothing announced, and of course, we're not insiders, so we don't know this, but like, from Joe, there's something, I don't even know what we're calling it. Look, they have a bevy of names to choose from. I mean, there was NWA Shockwave, there's Power Surge, USA, Circled Squared, High Voltage. I mean, there was plenty of names to use that they could. And look, there's nothing wrong with calling this, making a show on YouTube called Power Surge and literally just being a build-up or a recap of what happened on Power, especially to those who are in an international audience. I know that the NWA is working on trying to get some sort of clearance for international markets for Power, but I don't know. I think that'd be a good idea even going forward, even if it's just, clips and highlights, promos, and maybe a match. But who am I to say? Chris Drummond is asking you, Poyo, since Hard Times is a signature live event, does that mean pay-per-views are on hiatus? And although I'm not going to try to speak for Poyo, I don't know that there's an answer for that just yet. I don't think they have an answer for that just yet. I think we'll figure it out as it comes along. We all know, because I reported it, got everyone on that one, scooped you, that the access between Treelawn TV, formerly known as Fight, and the NWA has ended. So anybody who had purchased content from the NWA through Treelawn are now, well, you're out of luck. There is still some NWA content on Treelawn, but it's not the NWA content you're expecting. You could still watch the 70th anniversary show. That show was produced by Global Force Wrestling, Jeff Jarrett's group. So that is still available on Fight. If you had purchased it, it's still there, as well as the Crockett Cup 2019. You could relive all the moments with the Briscoes and the Rock and Roll Express, Satoshi Kojima and Brody King going down in the ring. That was pretty brutal. That was a fun match too. But that's the only place where NWA content exists on Fight these days, because anything produced by the NWA is gone. Let's see. So Jeremy says he pitched it. Corny was talking about it the other day. Oh, okay. I never heard that, Jeremy, with regards to Russo. Noob liked NWA USA. I thought it was good too, but I understand, like, again, if you're making original content for CW, and I imagine, and again, I don't have specifics. I have no paperwork on this. Nobody handed me the contracts, but I would have to imagine a deal with even the CW app. Obviously, a network deal would have been probably much higher in return, but even a CW app is going to boast higher ROI numbers than YouTube. They have to. I'm on YouTube. I get a return on my investment for YouTube. It's not very much. And I don't put tens of thousands of dollars into each episode of the PreParty or the Alliance guys. We put tens of dollars into this broadcast, okay? So if I only return on my investment is, percentages of that tens of dollars, that's fair, that's adequate, that's equitable. When the NWA is putting probably close to 10 grand per episode, I have to imagine that the ROI that YouTube was providing was very, very low. And even if the CW was paying 10 times what YouTube was paying, it's still probably too low. I don't know the numbers, guys. I don't know the ROI that the CW is, what they're investing in terms of the NWA, but I know that they are happy to have the brand on board. I know that they're hoping for positive returns by putting them on there, and therefore they paid a premium for the programming. This wasn't a charity case, guys. It wasn't like the CW said, oh, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, we'll pick the worst show and put it on the air. That's not the case. There were other wrestling companies that wanted to have that same deal, the same exact deal that the NWA has. And, the NWA has it. So there's a reason why they went to CW. They will have less international eyeballs on the product because of CW, but I think the benefits are going to outweigh, unfortunately, the lack of eyeballs. The benefit will outweigh the loss of the international audience. Hopefully they find a way to continue to provide content for an international audience, whether that be through a different support outside of the U.S. or some sort of system set up with YouTube, or maybe even a CW side thing. I don't know. There was a reason why they went to the CW, and it wasn't because, we're just hoping to knock something out of the park. No, there's money to be made here. Poyle said, Chris Drummond, NWA pay-per-views appear to be, for the moment, on hold with signature live events taped for broadcast on the CW. Sean Mega's in the house. What's up, Sean? Jeremy says, the way it was described, it came across like lower WoW just from the truth. Look, WoW is already kind of juvenile, if you ask me. And I have friends that work there, and I love that my friends have a good paying job, and it's a step up from the indies, but I don't think it's great wrestling. NWA USA was a fun weekend. I saw the promotion poster for the NWA on CW, and there's no one else on there like Max, the Impaler, BFT, and Aaron Stevens. Of course, Natalia Markova isn't on there. I believe you're talking about, I have it here somewhere, this poster. Yeah, and look, they can't put everyone on the roster, guys. I mean, look, you have some good representation there. Your world's heavyweight champion, your women's world champion, the world junior champion, the national champion, and then you have Mims, the TV champion. Now we know at the first taping for the CW, specifically brand specific to CW, was Paranoia. So if Paranoia doesn't, with Paranoia, we will have in some shape, way, or form a new TV champion. We know that. So it's okay if Mims is on there now, or if Max is on there later, or whatever happens. We don't know until we know. It's just an advertisement. I don't think it's indicative of what's going to happen next. With that being said, there must be some sort of blood loyalty oath from those fans that were at the tapings at the Revolution Live, because I have not seen any results at all for this event. I have not seen any details of what happened. I've seen no photos, no tagged photos, nothing that gave away what happened at the show. I'm so proud of the fans, but also frustrated because I don't care about spoilers when it comes to pro wrestling. If it's good, I'm still going to watch it, and it's nice to know what's going to happen next. But it's not there. There's nothing there. Fiona, just a heads up, there is supposed to be some kind of NWA content tonight. It looks like to be maybe a recap or something. Noobs, Poyo just broke that to us just a minute ago. Getting back to more comments, Poyo says, we are still looking at a wide array of methods outside of exclusively the CW, but there's so many things at work here. Yeah, and that's the bummer, because, for example, our friend Fiona, who's in the chat, or Tim Gold, our Alliance brethren with the other Alliance guys, they have been very loyal and dedicated fans, and it's a shame to me that this thing's going to kick off without their involvement, but hopefully it is remedied soon for them, and they're on board early and often. Jeremy said, I enjoyed having almost 2 hours of wrestling between NWA Memphis on Saturday mornings. It was a great way to start the weekend. Hey, Jeremy, that might change soon, too. We don't know exactly what the direction the NWA is going, but we have news with the United Wrestling Network. We'll talk about that soon. Bobby Petito says, who would you like to see against Reka Tahaka? Well, interestingly enough, Reka Tahaka is out of her WOW contract. She just signed with the NWA. Who does she start off with first? I don't know, man. The division of the NWA is solid when it comes to that women's world's heavyweight championship. I guess we have to find out what the status is of the TV title, if that still exists. If it's being unified, like it's being rumored as to one title. It depends on who's still around, right? Because we do get often changes on the roster after shows, right? Things aren't always static in the NWA. Everything evolves with each taping. But the first person off the top of my head, Chicago's sweetheart, Misa Kate, has been so good for the NWA in 2023. In fact, she might be one of my top 10 of 2023. If I were to recommend something or someone about the NWA that I'm high on, it's Misa Kate in that women's division. Of course, Natalia Markova can go. We know that. And she's had some brutal matches with the former world's women's champion in Camille. So, again, that would be another great way to kick off Reka Tahaka's introduction to the NWA. However, I think if they're smart, they're going to start off small and let her have a few matches where she can really kind of come into her own. I know she's a bit of a spitfire. She exudes confidence in the ring. She's not my favorite wrestler, but I could see what people see in her. So we'll see how that all plays out. Of course, I think we just got her at the Paranoia. Probably more than likely she was at the television tapings on Sunday, because there was not an advertised match for her on Saturday night. So we'll have to wait and see. Poyo says, it's significant to stay outright. It is important to all of us because we highly value your support, that everyone recognizes we are working diligently and daily to accommodate all of the concerns. So there you go right there. I mean, and Poyo, I guess there's this point in time where the fans say, yeah, I mean, we get it. But at the same time, the CW was coming and everybody knew it's been coming for months. And I feel like that should have been something that was nipped in the bud almost immediately. When the decision was to move to an exclusive deal with CW, then they should have been looking for a market provider outside of the U.S. that would not interfere with the CW deal. I mean, I know that in past years, and I think MLW still does this, Fubo is a provider, or BN Sports, or there's a lot of international partners that they could have started to work with that distribute content internationally. That would have been a great move for the NWA to be on. Even as a delayed service, just being able to give that opportunity for the international audience to watch, I think should, like you said, it's high on the priority list. I think that would have been my second logical step. Mike says, yo, hi everyone. Mike's in the house. Jeremy's here too. They're all saying hi to each other. Poyo says, and NWA 100% wants to expand our opportunities and methods of reaching and interacting with our audience. These are all real things that we're working on, but it takes considerable time and effort. Again, I hear you, Poyo, and I'm not trying to, I've never brokered a TV deal, right? I understand that things don't just happen overnight. Things take time. But again, if it was not the next thing that was done as soon as the CW deal was finalized, it should have been. And that's all I can say, because I wasn't in the room. I don't know. Poyo might know, but really the only people that know are Billy and maybe, one or two other people in the NWA. You have most of the champions on that poster. Stop upset. Look, I'm not going to tell Noob to not be obsessive about his favorite. I'm obsessive about my favorite. And that's why whenever Poyo's here, I'm super excited to say, hi, Poyo. Still a million times better than Tharp. I mean, look, Sean, gosh, do I agree that it was a million times better than the Trobich era? No, I don't. That's me, and that's fine. You don't have to agree with me. But I also lived in California, where one of the lead promoters had a weekly television show that was available over the antenna. So, like, you didn't even have to have cable to watch it. You could watch on a regular TV, but it was also available on other forms too. But when the NWA, prior to the Tharp era, when you had Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, and before that, it was the NWA Wrestling Showcase. Although there were stops in between, they did feature a lot of content and featured all of the NWA World Champions like we see today. I remember going to the Columbia Square studio and seeing World's Heavyweight Champion Blue Demon Jr., North American Champion El Leon Apollo, the National Champion. I think he goes by the name Jason Riker now. We used to call him Phil Shatter. We had the tag team champions in, oh God, what, the Dark. No, it wasn't Dark City Fight Club. Oh, man, I forgot who it was. I'm sure someone will correct me in the chat. And we had those champions featured pretty heavily. That was pretty awesome for me. But again, Los Angeles isn't a small market. I get that. But it was just one promotion doing the show. Whereas now it's similarly still one promotion. But CW is a huge step. And it is, I think, the right step for the NWA. Tim says, sorry I'm late. What are we talking about for the next month? Well, look, there's still things to talk about within the NWA, and we'll get to some of those in just a few minutes. I know that the chat is hot tonight because, a lot of us were walking into this thinking that there wouldn't be any new programming. There will be something offered by the NWA, as Poyo mentioned earlier, for both events. Okay. I personally threaten people to make sure nobody leaked. Poyo, it feels like it because, look, I'll be honest. I'm not going to be happy with the result of the TV title. I don't feel like I will, but I want to know. I want to know, even though I think I'll be disappointed by it. But we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, and I've been saying that because. Please scroll back because I'm giving a blanket statements regarding all these comments. I've been trying to read all your comments, boy. I hope I got them all. Let's see. Jeremy says James H. Jackson Jr. and I were talking the other day about how well the fans and the attendants guard what they saw until after. Yeah, I mean, and I look, and for some let me try that again. In some aspects, I feel like they're doing a good job as fans. I do, because I think there's nothing worse than when a fan who is intimidated or frustrated or angry by spoilers gets the spoilers and ruins it for them. I know that's some people in this chat. Me, for wrestling, I've never been turned off by spoilers for wrestling, which is weird because it kills me for movies. But for wrestling, it's only kind of enhanced my experience. So I'll just leave it as that. Blame Canada. Oh, I better not do that. I'll get copyrighted. Without giving anything away, I can give you a heads up that things with that TV title are going to be just fine. You know, Poyo, as somebody who suffers from mental health issues, when I say just fine, it never means I'm fine. So I think you're that's a wink. That's a wink. Let's see. It's cold in Georgia. Man, it's not as cold here as it is in Georgia, but it's been very, very cold. I was in Cathedral City. Poyle knows where that's at. I was in Cathedral City over the weekend watching Masked Republic. In fact, one of our own former world junior heavyweight, not junior heavyweight, our former world tag team champion, Bestia 666, was in action, and the wrestling match was outside in 40-degree weather. Not a night. I felt so bad for the ladies who were hardly wearing any clothes at all. Bobby Batito wants to see Rekka Tahaka versus Taylor Rising or Ruthie J. All right, Poyle, bet. I'll do that right now. Give me just a second and I will do that right now. How do I do it from here? Dang. All right, everybody, just hold tight. Your pal Jay is going to try to patch in Poyo. Let's see. How can I do that? Oh, there it is. There it is. Poyo, if you're here, I'm going to go throw it into your Twitter. All right. Hang tight, everyone. We're going to try to pull Poyo up on the show. Where? All right, Poyo, it's sent. If you pop in, I will bring you on if you're still here. All right, thanks everyone for your patience. Let's see. Jeremy says thumbs up. Patch and Poyle. I'm trying to. Sorry, guys. I was talking. I'm reading comments, guys. Let's see. All right. Introducing Mr. Paul Pratt to the show.
Jay, give me a second. We're going to...
What's that?
Oh, sorry. I had to mute what I was hearing so that I did not... We weren't getting a constant loop of what was being said. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I got you. So that's first
of all,
let
me try to look right for the people. There we are. Oh, look at this. NWA star repping my hometown promotion, Underground Wrestling Alliance.
And then there's something happening in Palm Springs soon too.
Yeah, that'll be in March. But anyway, what let me see what I can try to give answers for, because there's a lot of wheels that are at play here, you know what I mean? And all of the questions that you, our fans, are asking are things we're asking. So I can try to give you some answers, but I can't lose my job.
No, absolutely. And please don't say anything that would make me take down the video later.
I won't. Of course, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. But of course, everyone's happy that you're in the chat. I don't know if you saw that. Our pal Lamb is from Germany. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Lamb, but he's watching in Germany. Fiona's watching in London, or not London, excuse me, Scotland. Wow, that's insulting. I apologize, Fee. Tim's in Canada. So there is an international audience in here right now.
Let me address that, because I know that Fee is one of our hugest supporters, and everybody at NWA is so grateful, first of all, for what the Alliance blog does and what Fee does with their show. We are extremely grateful to our fans around the world who are so diligent in their support, unwavering, undying, good or bad. no matter what our product looks like or whether or not they like our champions or the direction we're taking. Everybody's so unwavering, and we do value that. And it's important that people recognize that this deal with CW, I think that it's been a long time in the works, but when it happened very quickly.
Okay.
And I think that there were things that our internal team didn't think about. We did not think about the fact that this new program will be locked exclusively for visibility within the United States. And I would never, ever suggest that somebody go, outside the confines of the law and get a VPN to be able to watch on things around the world. I would never do that. But can you believe, Jay, that some people are such avid fans of professional wrestling that they will pirate things outside the United States so they can see them? I would never, ever.
How very dare you, Poyo?
I would never
that anybody might.
but that is something I've heard that some people, a link I've heard some people might go to watch this outside the United States. One of the options that we are looking at is, and we have to check and see how it will impact our partnership. But I again, this is one of the things I want to reiterate. And when you're saying like we should have done this or we could have done this, and you're absolutely correct, but we are now moving because of this partnership with the CW from an entity that acts exclusively on its own to working in conjunction with another organization and another, quite honestly, a much larger company that presumably has far greater confines on what can and cannot be done than we've ever worked in that environment before. So for those of you who are watching this, who went from at some point in your life being a single person who did whatever you want to being in a marriage where you had to get permission and or buy-in from some other party that doesn't always believe in the same things you do or doesn't have the same practices you do, you will understand how challenging it can be to work through those early kinks in a long-term relationship. And that's where we're at right now. So something I can tell you that is being looked into or considered are the possibility of geo locks that would allow content to be available for viewership outside of the United States through third-party providers like YouTube. I can't say for a fact that any of that's possible or that is what we will be doing, but I just want people to understand that we are really working diligently. And the unfortunate part of saying we is this isn't a corporate giant like WWE. There's so few of us that are working on this project internally. I have us all on one text thread, right? So we're on a text thread that does not get confusing because there are not hundreds of people on it. Okay. There are people that fit on two hands that are working to make this possible for all of us.
Well, since you're so close to the heartbeat, then Chris suggested it. I'm gonna throw it up here so that maybe you can digest that and share with whom it might impact or could impact. But what about putting the past pay-per-views available on something like Amazon or Apple TV, or even like when we're talking about pay-per-views, like a streaming service like the Premier Wrestling Network or something along those lines?
Those are all things. These are great options that I can present. And I suspect that at some point in time that these might be looked at. Right now, we have such an incredible archive, if you think about it, of back video content. Yeah. We have not just our past pay-per-views from the previous couple of years that used to be available on Fight TV and other places and now are not, but we also have all those years of power that got pulled from YouTube. So I am absolutely certain that William Patrick Corrigan is looking into options of how to do this, where best to make this available to people. And there are people like myself, and reminder, I'm on the low end of this, right? I just came in. There's people several layers above me before we get to Billy even. But this is something that we're all looking at. We're all brainstorming ideas. We love to outsource. I've already told people that, when they give me feedback about this link is broken on the website, or can we do this on the website? these are all things I love to hear personally, because I can incorporate those. And even if I can't act on it in that moment, they can go in either a mental Rolodex, or I legitimately write things down so that we can try to tackle these issues as they arise. You are our quality control. You are our audience, and you let us know some of the challenges that you experience that we don't even think of because we're not experiencing those problems, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. And again, sometimes you're too close to the to what's in front of you. You know what I mean?
Is that my static or yours?
Might be mine. I mean, I don't hear static from you, so it might be me. Is this any better?
It does seem better. Yeah. Okay, cool.
I guess if I get too close to the router, I get that noise.
Yeah, because it's kind of a crackling sound. So these are all things that we will be addressing. They're, each of us has our specialty, and that's one of the beautiful things that's happening as the NWA continues to grow. We are building out responsibilities and areas of expertise for different individuals, which is a considerable step forward when you think about the fact that just a year and a half ago, we largely had about 3%. Or I'm sorry, I just looked at a percentage. Sorry, Jeremy, you just threw me off. I glanced at your comment and it's like, we had about 3 people doing these roles. And now we've been able to divide those off into other people who have specialties. So I've taken over all of our digital elements in terms of our website, the magazine, certain other content. I'm working backstage as a producer now on season 17, which was an incredible experience. Then whereas there used to just be largely Gary, Kyle, and Joe, with Haban, who people don't know Haban, but Haban is our person who does all of our graphics. He does our ringside photography, things of that nature. So our team is growing slowly, and everybody is being able to specialize into areas of expertise. So,
real quick, Sean Mega says the magazine was fire.
So thank you, Sean. The next issue of the magazine will be dropping in about 2 weeks. I think that this one is also fire, and it's got some fun new features that are coming into it that I think that our fans specifically will really appreciate. Things like this month in NWA history. There's a lot of things that we're working on. Our fans are definitely at the forefront of our minds, and we are trying to provide them incredible content. Anybody who hasn't gone and looked at the roster page that's now available on the website, please do that. We're working to build out our roster, making it much more interactive, educational, fun.
All good things. It would be a shame if some coy outsider donned a pseudonym and wrote for you guys. I'm just saying. I saw here earlier, Lamb mentioned this, and I think this bodes as just a huge compliment to you. And anytime you've been on this show, whether you're Poyo or Paul, you've always represented the NWA with the best integrity. I feel like you take ownership of problems that aren't even yours. And I feel like you really represent the company well. And I think Lamb was saying that as well. I don't watch the NWA, but the way Paul talks about how the NWA does this and does that, that's how you want a person to represent your company. Kudos. So
Lamb, I just want to say thank you for that. I do appreciate it. One of the things that is extremely important to me as an individual is taking ownership. Unfortunately, I feel that society too often, people shy away from taking ownership and I'm not perfect. So when somebody comes to me and is like, this is falling short, I would like to see this, I will absolutely be the first one to be like, you know what? I dropped the ball on that. I dropped the ball on it. If you give me the opportunity, I will not drop that same ball again now that I've learned. So to me, we are fully aware. We will never be, as far as I can tell, the company that's like, there's nothing wrong here, nothing to see here. There are things that we are looking to address, issues, problems, things that we could do better. We know this, and we are slowly but surely taking steps to do that. It would be probably a lot faster process if there was 50 of me and 50 of Joe and 50 of Kyle, 100 of Gary because he kills himself. If we had a lot of these people, it would probably happen much more rapidly. But what we have is a very passionate and dedicated team that, we do what we do because we love it. We're passionate about it. We love being able to present what we ourselves enjoy watching to our fan base. And, I will say this. My best friend is not a pro wrestling fan, right? And we're in constant contact. And we talked about this weekend while it was happening. And he was like, why are you not responding? This is my BFF, right? Like, imagine your own BFF. You're like on speed dial with each other. That text comes in, it's an instant response. And I said, so sorry. I flew in on Friday. I'm just going to tell you this, not to be a martyr, but I want you, the fans, to understand what goes into making what you see from the talent side. I got in early. I got in on Friday. I went to bed. I had to report to my first meeting at 9 a.m. And I got back to my hotel room at 2 a.m. And it's not like there were long periods of nothing happening. There was stuff happening that entire time.
You were also at the CCW show the night before too, right?
So the CCW show ran back to back with us. So our NWA show went from, all the prep for that and everything went until about 10:30. So from morning until 10:30, we immediately rolled over into doing Coastal Championship Wrestling, where we also taped with them. So our talent appeared on their show. It was a joint production. We filmed that. I think some of that might be coming to Power. Some of that will definitely be going. Most of that will definitely be going to Coastal Championship Wrestling. And I was producer for both shows, behind the scenes producing, which means a headset and all of those things.
There was also a CCW show. And again, my Florida geography is not the best, but it was in Kissimmee, where I know that EC3 was there, and I know QT Marshall was there. Not that he's an NWA talent, but just a notable talent was also there.
Yeah, QT Marshall was on the CCW show in Fort Lauderdale too. So Coastal Championship Wrestling runs about 6 shows a week. They're incredible. They are very localized. They call themselves the last true territory, which is absolutely correct. They run consistently throughout Florida. Kissimmee is about 3 or 4 hours, I think, from Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
Kissimmee is close to Orlando. Florida, people don't recognize how large it is.
Yeah.
And they did Kissimmee. It was Cabana. It was Cha Cha Charlie taking on EC3 for the NWA World Heavyweight title.
Right.
Next night in Fort Lauderdale, it was EC3 taking on Matt Cardona in the 10 pounds of gold weapons ultimate match of death for Paranoia. And then we woke up. And so remember, I just told y'all I got back to my hotel, and I was the last talent to get back to our hotel, but most of the talent didn't get back there until between midnight and 1. And we had to be up and on a bus to be 4 hours away to start doing television on
the PBS studios.
In Tampa. Tampa's a 4-hour drive. So there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. And when you think about the fact that most of us who are producers had 16-hour days, it's pretty intense.
You said 6 shows a week. Did you mean 6 shows a month for CCW?
No, I meant 6 shows a week.
So they're literally running every single day but one.
They run about, I think their normal schedule is 4 to 5, but they do up to 6 a week.
Wow,
the way you accomplish that is that you usually, it means that they could do up to 2 shows a day on a Saturday and a Sunday.
Sure.
And that does not include the drive time between those shows. So they could do conceivably a 1 to 3 show and drive 3 hours and be somewhere else to do a 7 to 10 show.
That's incredible. And you think about that, that's near WWE level, 6 shows a week. So wow, what a beating the talent must take.
You put a lot of miles on a car, I'll tell you that.
So at that point, it's better to lease.
So let me, since I'm here, I did not intend to come on and take over your show, because I know you got a lot of things you want to talk about.
No, this is more entertaining. Trust me, they can watch me every week. You don't come on every week, although the invitation's open.
But if they have questions they want to ask, I would be happy to try as best I can to answer them. The
You hear
thing
that,
I will
guys?
tell you is you brought up the TV title. I know what happens, and I know what happens after what happens. And I don't think that some of the problems that people have had coming into this point, I think that those will be addressed in due time, and people will have a better understanding. And I personally thought it was really kind of rad. So
I'm going to say this, Poyo and Paul, Poyo, whatever.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know, but it's just like it's like how my brain works. Like when you're in Poyo, you're Poyo.
Mhm.
When you're Paul, you're Paul. This is one of my favorite title belts of all time.
Mhm.
So it is like, and this is coming from a fan, right? This is a title that is synonymous with me with guys like Arn Anderson, guys like Tully Blanchard, Dusty Rhodes, and even in modern days, your own co-host on the podcast, the Pope. I mean, this belt has some significance to a guy like me. And one of my concerns was that this belt might disappear. And that would be not the worst thing in the world, but it would make me sad because it has that long history tradition. When we tell ourselves that the NWA in 2024 is rooted in the same NWA that started back in 1948, then when I see that this belt that was synonymous with the 80s of wrestling, the 80s NWA, and now it's gone, that kind of makes me sad. Don't tell me what happens because I don't want you to get in any kind of trouble.
I will not, even if you ask.
Yeah.
But what I will tell you is this. You're talking to somebody and without giving any information, and I think that even the viewers who are watching you right now, the usual people who come on to the Alliance blog, all who are super fans of the NWA, like you are, like I am, you're talking to somebody, and I will put this in perspective. When Silas Mason and a certain lovely one started to kind of climb the ranks, I was the one who was saying, can we please go for the TV title? The TV title to me is more legendary even than the national title.
100% agree. Like,
as
no
a
question
person
about it.
who grew up idolizing Baby Doll, who was intricate and integral in the television title scene for a full 2 years during her time in the National Wrestling Alliance, if there was anything whatsoever that hinted in my mind of erasing the legacy of that specific title, I would not be on board with it. I am fully on board with what I saw happen this weekend.
It's fair enough.
Let us speak to whatever you wanted to say.
Lamb says, hey, if you're not doing that Talk NWA show on Mondays, you're more than welcome to come here on Tuesdays. And that's true. That's always true. The door's always open. Even if you just have something like, hey, Jay, let me smarten you up to something. You're saying it wrong, or you're not representing the company correctly. Let me tell you on live camera.
You don't represent the company. You represent Jay Cal and the Alliance blog. It's
Fair
not
enough.
your job to represent us.
Fair enough.
In fact, your job is to do exactly what you do. You're critical in a way that is rooted in love and passion for this, and which means that undoubtedly you're not always going to agree with the direction the company takes because you see it from a different perspective. Anybody who thinks that even those of us who work for the company and love the company and pay our bills via the company love the direction of the company at all times, that's a fallacy. Sometimes, our job internally is to fight for what we believe in and what we want to see on the company. And we don't always win those fights because ultimately we all answer to an extremely famous rock star who has turned his passion and success elsewhere into passion and success for the National Wrestling Alliance.
There was you just said it too, and of course that said musician has famously said that he prefers to go against the grain because that's what he did with his music, and it turned out pretty good for him in that sense. So I don't disagree with the fact that his company, his rules, of course, and he's not always going to go the direction that J. Cal would, or even the direction that Paul would. But at the end of the day, I also feel like this is the audience. I mean, look, there's 18 people now. At one point, there was about 22 people in this chat. That's not the entire audience of the NWA, but it is a very good focus, right? It's a very good circle of who and what is watching the product. And I'm not saying that we are the you have to write a show that's for us, but this would be a great resource for the NWA to kind of watch and read these chat comments and see everyone that's saying, hey, I like this, and hey, I don't like that.
I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that I join this chat very often, and I frequently am here to just kind of like make sure that people, if there's any fallacies that are floating around, I'll quickly try to chime that in, just to let people know that. But I also am collecting information because you are a great test group. We cannot program exclusively for the Alliance blog and the fans of the Alliance blog, but we also don't program exclusively for Paul Pratt, who works for this company, right?
Yeah. Jeremy put up a good point. He says, regardless of how I want to see things going, the NWA at the end of the day, I'm just happy I get to see it still. And that's true too. And that's something that it's not wasted on me, and it's not wasted on a lot of us who are watching the NWA prior to Billy Corgan purchasing it. But, guys, there was some very lean times there. And there was a point in time where, that the absence from Championship Wrestling, NWA Hollywood, right? That was the marquee NWA program until 2012 when Dave Marquez was no longer associated with the NWA. There was a period there where, yes, some promotions had their own TV shows, a lot of YouTube programs as well, but it wasn't something that concluded with the entirety of the NWA. So the fact that we have, even if it's on a delayed system for some of the international audience, there's still an opportunity to watch this program. The NWA will figure it out eventually. I know that they will. That it won't.
If NWA doesn't, our fans will, because our fans are smart.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. They will. I something that I want to pass along to y'all that I think people will. I see you, Fee. Thank you. One of the things I want to pass along that was said multiple times over the course of this past weekend, and it bodes extremely well, and I think our fans will love to hear this, is that one benefit for the fans of us going to CW is that we moved into a different realm of how we want to be perceived. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of products that are on YouTube, and being on YouTube obviously doesn't negate the quality of a product, but things that might be acceptable for YouTube may not be acceptable if you are working with a partnership for something like the CW, whether that's quality things, whether that's match quality, appearance. I will tell you that there are some insanely beautiful visual growth elements for the upcoming season 17, number one. So stay tuned for that. But also William Patrick Corgan, expressed multiple times to our talent over the course of this weekend. Going to the CW means that we're going to be seen by a different audience than we have. Yeah. Our current existing audience will come with us mostly, and we love that, and we want you to. But we will be seen by a new audience. And therefore, we are looking to present pay-per-view quality in-ring work on a consistent basis. We want people to watch the CW and say, I would pay to see that. Yeah. I would pay to go see that. This is a higher level of in-ring competition than what I saw even on Power when it was on YouTube. So for the viewers, that is going to become incredibly important, because the quality of the matches, and I saw this with my own two eyes since I was there, has improved dramatically.
Well, one thing that I saw, and I don't think I'm spoiling anything, is some of the weapons that were in that matchup of the 10 pounds of weapons ultimate death match, that honestly, and you guys know what you're doing, I'm surprised it's going to make its way to the CW app. You know what I'm saying? Because I remember quite a few years ago, you might remember this little wrestling promotion called Wrestling Society X that was on MTV, that they had to censor quite a bit of the content. Now, again, this was 20 years ago, but they had to censor quite a bit of the content because it was deemed too violent for TV. And I'm wondering how the NWA is going to get around that when some of the stuff I saw in that Ultimate Match of Death.
The Ultimate Match of Death will not be broadcast for quite a while, right? Because we taped some of this, the way that the show was structured.
Yeah.
Through the magic of television, these will be airing at different times.
Sure.
But that match is so good. I enjoyed the living shit out of it. It was pretty incredible. And I loved that match. There's so many exciting things that happened in a 48-hour period in Florida that was all captured for television. I think that your fans are going to be extremely pleasantly surprised with what they're going to be seeing in the upcoming season 17 of NWA Power on the CW app. It's easy to download for anybody in the United States, and it's free. One of the things that I personally love about watching episodes of Power on the CW or via the CW versus YouTube, the quality of what I can't explain it, but the quality looks so much better on their app than YouTube. Like YouTube can't stream at the quality that CW does.
Okay.
It looks so good. It looks, and for anybody who hasn't seen it already and wants to see what I'm talking about, you can go to nationalwrestlingalliance.com, and along this, if you're on a laptop, it'll be along the top. If you're on a phone, it'll be the three little buttons or, three little dots in the corner. There's a link to the CW app, and then you can go watch it. The quality looks so good. I watched season 15, which was what we sort of snuck up on there.
Yeah.
Test it out. I rewatched that entire season, and it was so visually different compared to YouTube. It felt like I was watching something all new for the first time.
Okay, so here's the dumb question of the day, and I probably know the answer to this, but I would love to hear it from somebody who could represent the NWA or CW in this case. The stream is going to pop off at 12 a.m., Tuesday morning, right? It's not like it's going to be dropping at 6:05 on the, or can you answer that, or you don't know?
I honest to goodness do not know.
I mean,
I'm gonna guess that it goes live just like anything on whether you're watching on Hulu or YouTube or Netflix or whatever. Right. Once it's up there, it's up there.
Sure.
And it's not exactly the same as on television, where we have to adhere to an entire schedule where things run before us and have a lead in for us.
Right.
Something else that I would like to say, people, I used to get really frustrated a couple months ago when people were like, oh, it's the CW app. It's not the same as broadcast television. And I agree with that. I do understand that.
Yeah.
But when people talk about like, it's just the app, listeners, viewers, I do not own a TV. I haven't owned an actual television set or paid for cable television since before COVID, before the pandemic. The week before the world went on lockdown, I got rid of my TV. Believe it or not, I haven't watched anything that hasn't been available on an app in over 3 years. Netflix is an app. I don't mean to break people's heart. Netflix is an app. Hulu is an app. Amazon Prime is an app. Please understand that even these apps are now, like, those are eligible for Emmy Awards. They're considered a broadcast platform. It is not just an app. This is not like you're watching this on the Walgreens app. This is available on a streaming platform. So when people talk about, oh, it's just the app, how many professional wrestling companies would, chew their own arm off to get that kind of platform for their product to be seen? So, I mean, yes, all of these things are absolutely correct. YouTube is an app. We just happen to upgrade to an app that is much more exclusive in the type of content. And see, I can't give any details, but we have a meeting with CW to try to figure out how we're going to build our relationship with them, because we will be getting promoted and promotion through the CW. And that's something that's incredible. When people go on the CW app and you click on sports to find all of your other favorite sports content, we're listed right there.
Yeah.
It's going to be significantly different in terms of our visibility and much more beneficial.
And I mean, besides the obvious too, and I was saying this earlier before you came on, Paul, was, I'm a YouTuber, Paul. I do make money on this, but not a lot. And I know that these shows, talent doesn't work for free. Venues aren't for free. Lighting, cameramen, none of that stuff is a free deal, right? Everybody's getting paid, compensated. And there's a higher ROI being on a network app. There just is. You can't convince me otherwise.
So I want to point out something, Jake, too.
Okay.
It's not just that. And I'm not going to give away trade secrets here that are specific to the NWA. But when we film for television, or when we do a broadcast for a pay-per-view, there is a truck that parks outside.
Yep.
I mean, so for our studio TV tapings, we don't have this. But if we do a locational television taping like we did on Saturday
for Paranoia,
there's a broadcast truck that parks outside. And do you give me a ballpark guess of what you think that truck costs? So
I'm a little bit more educated because of friendships with other wrestling promotions that have trucks. I don't know a specific, but I'm going to say about 50 G for each taping.
I'm going to tell you that we would race to get that contract.
Fair
if
enough.
It was 50K. Those trucks are extremely expensive.
Right.
And that truck, the expense of that truck and the people who work in that truck are the difference between the quality of what you will see at your local indie wrestling company, which is great. And I work for those local indies, so I'm definitely not shitting on anybody.
Right.
But the quality of what you're getting there versus what we're trying to present and what needs to be presented to be working in relation with the CW, we're talking like what most of the people in this chat, and certainly I would jump at the chance to make per year what that truck makes for a day. I'll tell you that.
Right. And again, like to what you're saying, like yes. These shows aren't cheap. These shows aren't it's not that's
why our work days are so long, because you get that truck for one day and you want to get as much taped as you can, because that you don't want to have to incur that cost for a second day.
So even with I was at Championship Wrestling from Hollywood this past weekend at the Thunder Studios, which is a legitimate studios, but they even had a truck outside, and it wasn't the same truck that they use, because the truck that they normally use, which has a lot more value, was taping some sort of event in Texas. They literally drove this whole thing down to Texas because that's how in demand these things are. So I understand the point, and I think that hopefully the audience does as well. But these things are what set the difference between like a normal independent wrestling show from a televised wrestling event. Obviously, the NWA has been trying to get on that next level since day one. Everything has been a buildup. The 10 pounds of gold. A lot of those matches were filmed in Hollywood long before there was even a power in mind. It was a means to an end. You have your wrestling show. You had a YouTube series. You had a couple of YouTube series. You had a few pay-per-views, and then you launched Power. And I always know that the plan all along was to bring Power to a higher platform, to a bigger platform. And although I don't believe initially there's going to be as many eyeballs on the product initially, I think, like you said, Paul, it's another opportunity for the brand to grow.
Yeah, I want to address Doty's comment, about WWE and AEW, existing at the capacity that they are because of traditional television. And I don't think any of us would argue that whether we're on the CW app or another, platform that's a streaming app, that we would not love to have a traditional television broadcast spot as well. That is something that I think everybody would work towards. And none of us, by saying that this app is similar to what you would see on a Netflix or a Hulu or whatever, that's not to denigrate the concept or value of having a traditional television spot. We would love to have that. But one of the things I think that is understandable here is that changing the quality and the way we structure the show and all of those things to be broadcast on the app puts us one step closer to the possibility of securing that kind of an agreement. And unfortunately, I'm going to give a newsflash for all of you. If we were, let's say tomorrow, we were given a television agreement with some random cable network, there would be a whole new set of concerns, because then the people I don't get that network on my broadcast. I don't get that. How am I going to see that in Australia? It's just like every step of the way, it's going to present new problems and new challenges for us to be able to overcome those and continue to serve our core audience while reaching even greater audiences. And I hope that people can understand that.
Disagree. These aren't challenges. These are opportunities, Paul. We're
I know. And that I didn't want to use that corporate speak because people in the chat would be like, that's not an opportunity. It is. It's an opportunity for us to grow, to be able to better understand our path to the future.
I grew up in corporate America, so I have a background in corporate Americanese, so I know what we're talking about here. But yeah,
people say that to me, so do I. Yeah. But when a person who's like, I also know that when I first got presented that terminology, and I was like, no, this is a problem, and they were like, opportunity. It's like it's a problem. It's a problem to you, the person who's experiencing it. For me, as the provider, it's an opportunity to grow and better understand how to serve you.
Yeah. And who knows, like, again, we've talked about the opportunity of serving that international audience. That could be a whole bevy of things. And from what it sounds like, and I'm just kind of wrapping around the circle again, it sounds like that could be a number of things. There hasn't been a decision made yet, but hopefully there will be one soon. And of course, I don't think the NWA is going to be mums about it when it happens. I think there'll be at the very least a press release. I'm sure Gary and Kyle and Joe will be talking about it, because this is still a big deal. It's still a good, it's, even the CW is not the end zone, if that makes sense, guys. It's not the last place they wanted to be. This is a step, and it's a big step, but it's a step into growing this brand that, I think when we talk about, 5 or 10 years from now, Billy's going to want to be in that conversation where you have what networks are available, where can this brand go? I'm sure Billy wants to have those conversations with the bigger channels, the bigger opportunities. But right now, CW is a great first step. It's a huge step into growing this brand. Again, this isn't just this isn't Billy's summer project. And he's already said that he's committed 20 years to this idea. And not that he hasn't committed more to that, but he has a plan for 20 years now. Whatever's deviated or whatever's changed since then, it's still a plan to go forward. So I'm excited.
How far, though, we've come. You know what I mean? Like and people would like to, people who are our greatest detractors for the National Wrestling Alliance will compare today's NWA to the highest of highs in the 80s, right? Sure. The entire world has changed. And what we need to understand for those who are currently fans of the National Wrestling Alliance and who will become fans in the future is where the NWA is now versus that period of time in between in 1990 when NWA and WCW sort of started to split ties and then the National Wrestling Alliance sort of went off many people's grids.
Right.
We're working. We cannot compare our success today with the high point of the 40s, 40 years ago, 1980s success of NWA. The landscape of wrestling, the landscape of broadcasting, the landscape of the world is so different. I would challenge people to ask, you know, where NWA 75 was, because this is like our, you know, kind of like our high point for the year. Where was NWA 75 versus NWA 65? Where did people go to watch that?
No, that's with 100% accuracy. Yes. NWA 60 was actually, or you said 65. NWA, the 60th anniversary show, was a huge event, but it never even made it to TV.
No,
it never was presented on a pay-per-view or even a video release. So you have to, I agree with you, Paul. It's very, from where they were to where they are now, it's night and day, and it doesn't happen overnight. And of course, it didn't happen until Billy Corgan takes over the NWA. Could the NWA in some shape or form still exist without Billy? Sure, it could have, but I don't think we'd be here today where we are right now without him.
Alliance Gold is asking about NWA content. I'm here, so I'm not even on the NWA YouTube channel.
I just looked, and I don't see anything presently in terms of something right now. They're live. There's nothing live scheduled, and I don't see like a new video that's been up or anything like that.
Okay, hold please. I've got breaking news from my. I'll just show. Can you see what? You can't see what it says.
It showed it a minute ago. The CW. I saw that.
So, well, it's this one. This is my special chat group. That is It's the NWA internal chat in my phone. Hold on. Hold on. Oh, so these are things that right now. By the way, we have more time. From what I'm being told. This is coming from our executive producer, Billy Trask. Presumably, today's episode. Now, remember, people are like, I can't believe this. Please remember that everyone on this group, who is everyone who's doing everything internal except Billy Corgan, because Billy Corgan will not be on the chat group, because I'm not going to like have the balls to send Billy Corgan anything that I would send this group.
Sure.
Everybody internal who does NWA stuff is on this.
Yeah.
And we all just worked about 20 hours a day for 3 days in a row.
Right.
And then flew home yesterday. So if you can figure out a time in there when this stuff should have been being produced, you let me know, because I'll just correct them. But as a person who lived it, I can tell you, I got in yesterday and was like, oh my God, I got some.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So apparently it should be going live on YouTube approximately 7 p.m.
7 p.m. on the West. And
On the I think 7 p.m. on the East. So that's about 45 minutes from now.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
And it's a look back at NWA Power.
All right.
Which will be, I think it's going to be like a greatest hits, but it's going to have some stuff I do believe that was recorded over the course of this weekend in terms of people talking about NWA. Okay. So tonight will include, interesting. Tonight's show will include apparently La Rebellion versus the Briscoes.
Woo!
Matt Cardona versus Trevor Murdoch.
That was a solid one.
And Shoes of a Champion, which I don't know what that means.
Eli Drake promo.
So, like, that appears to be hold on, I'm letting them know.
Shoes of a champion. See this jacket? Shoes of a champion.
I just sent them a text that said, I'm reporting this to the Alliance fans who have been sad. So, so that's what we've got going on tonight. But this is a situation where everything is, hold on. I don't want them to get that there. My phone is now trying to transcribe everything that we're talking about. Stop that. That's sure to get me probably fired. So what we're experiencing right now, these are all growing pains.
Right. What
this reminds me of in a professional sense harkens me back to a personal situation. When Jay, you've met me in person. Many people in this chat have met me in person. Outside of shoes, I'm just under 6 foot tall. When I was 13 and entered high school, I was 5 foot. I was 5'3". Actually, I was maybe 5'3". Yeah, we'll go with that. And 202 pounds.
Whoa.
Let's just say I was a little teapot, short and stout. And the reason I remember my exact weight is I liked the fact that I was 202 pounds because Jeff Jarrett was a young, hot up-and-comer, and he was listed as 202 pounds. So I remember this distinctly. So I entered high school at 13, 5'3", 202 pounds. And I was like, my family was like, that's fine. Everybody's short and stocky in our family, which is not true. But hey, go! You're ruining the mood here. So, and then one summer, I grew a few inches my freshman year, but between my sophomore and junior year, I grew from about 5'5" to just under my current height in one summer. 3 months, I grew like 5 inches in height. Stayed the same weight, just slimmed out and grew tall. My entire body hurt.
Yeah.
Because everything was happening and nobody, like I couldn't see what was going on internally, but it was going on. So that's where the fans of NWA are right now. We are experiencing a lot of those growing pains. There's a lot going on behind the scenes that you just can't see, but hopefully the end result of this product and experience will become visible to you sooner rather than later.
I was 5'3" and 150 pounds when I entered high school, and when I graduated, I was 5'9" and 190 pounds. And I would love to go back to 190 pounds, but that ain't never going to happen. So,
there is so much stuff. If people in the chat have questions, specific questions, I'll hang out and answer them. If not, I'll go back off screen. I'll dip out of here and you can talk about all the things. I just wanted to because you and your viewers represent people who are extremely important to the success of the National Wrestling Alliance. And we know that. It's not a secret to us. You represent our hardcore, avid, vocal fan base. And sit down. Sean says, Jay, this episode has been legendary. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, most of the time when you're on, Paul, like in my brain, I still have to call you Paul because you're not in drag. But yeah, every time you've been on the show, it's been legendary. You're always a blast to have on here, and that's why the door is always open for any of these times. Anytime that, again, if we're on and you're saying, hey, I would like to hammer this point for the fans, please let me know and I will get you on. That's not a problem. You're always, the open doors there for you.
So media asks, what I would love to know is when will Pollo be back on NWA TV? When will we see Pollo in an angle, managing a tag team, getting revenge on that silly Billy? So I don't have an answer for that. What I do want people to understand is that I firmly believe that will happen in the future. I'll be back on NWA television in a talent capacity. That is something that I'm passionate about. I think that NWA is very committed to me as a character. And I think that will presumably happen in the future. One of the things I love about our partnership with the CW, go and look at the CW's dedication to diversity in programming.
Sure.
They are extremely dedicated to diversity in programming. And that is something that, to me, is a great sign, because we will be able to present that, and there will be an expectation from our broadcast partner for that. So there's going to be a future for that. The reason that that hasn't happened to date is because of the fact that I don't think that they have found what I had with Silas, I think, or what Pollo Del Mar had with Silas, was a little bit of a lightning in a bottle situation.
Yeah.
And that happened unexpectedly. I don't feel personally that it ran its full course. NWA, I think, needed Silas in a different spot, and that necessitated some of the things that we saw go down. When there is a talent that is available and appropriate, I think that we'll see the return of Pollo Del Mar on camera. And one of the things that we should all remember about professional wrestling is it doesn't matter if the breakup or the breakup, the indiscretion, the heartbreak, the whatever goes down, dramatically speaking, it can sit on ice for 5 years. And when the time is right, that story will become front and center again very quickly. I think that I do have Alliance merch from our buddy J Cal here. I just wasn't wearing it today because truth be told, I'm wearing the same sweatpants I wore for 3 days in a row. I wasn't going to mess up anything. This is a fresh t-shirt just because I had to run some errands today. And I wear this beanie at all times because my head is constantly cold if it's not covered with a stocking cap, a baseball cap, or I've been known to occasionally wear a wig. So, what I'm saying is that Pollo Del Mar will be back. There isn't a talent that is appropriate for that. And I'm going to tell you right now, as a talent, I absolutely am grateful that they don't have me on television with something that is not appropriate for me, if that makes sense, because there's two ways to look at this. I'm off television and some people could forget about me. I don't think that's going to happen because I am pretty memorable. But the worst case scenario would be to be continuing on television, visible in a role that does not fit or benefit me. Right. If they just put me with somebody because they wanted to put me with somebody, I don't want that. I would rather be off television and allowed to return when the time is right than on television with something that doesn't work, that devalues me.
I was about to say something, but Chris beat me to it. And I think this is what you're saying. I think he means it. I'm saying this would be a knee-jerk reaction. Don't do it. But, wait, not that one. Sorry, not that one. This one. Chris said Pollo with Dixon. Yeah, sure. You could put Pollo with Mason Dixon because, yeah, that's his old friend and that's his old woman. But at the same time, like, that's a knee-jerk reaction. And that's long-term.
That story was pitched, by the way.
I mean, a short term, that would be fine. But I think long term, in terms of developing you as a character, developing somebody under your influence, your leadership, I think look, what you said exactly 5 minutes ago. What you and Thrillbilly had was very spontaneous, organic, and it was lightning in a bottle. I think trying to recreate that with Mason Dixon, and not a detriment to him at all, but just as a knee-jerk reaction. Well, that's his old pal, that's his old lady. No, it doesn't make sense. So I'm glad they didn't do that.
Alliance Gold asks, let's see. I'm just going to scroll through. I'm seeing these questions here, and I can answer some of these really quickly. Will we see Pollo in JCP or Exodus Pro? I don't think we're going to see Pollo in JCP. The plan actually was that you would see this person in JCP. I was booked to come in and record an entire season of JCP, doing color commentary and backstage vignettes as myself, as the editor of National Wrestling Alliance, NWA Official Wrestling. That person as a contributor to Pro Wrestling Illustrated. The unfortunate thing that booking was missed because of a whole bunch of flight cancellations that made it impossible.
Yeah,
it was already in the books. That we will circle back to that, I think, eventually. Pollo in Exodus Pro, I think that's a very strong probability. My schedule is I'm looking. The reason I looked over here is my schedule is legitimately written right here. I'll show you what my schedule looks like. All of those dates are already on the books. I've got more things on the books. I had more things on my schedule in terms of professional wrestling before the beginning of this year than I had on the book I ended up doing 51 pro wrestling bookings last year,
Wow.
which is a high for me. That's about one, considering I didn't do most of November and December, that was more than one a week for most of the year. This year, I've got already 25 bookings on the calendar, and those I don't have an open weekend between now and April. There's not one weekend I'm not working between now and April. So that's incredible.
Demonetized Mike is asking, will you be in Kingsport for Joe Cazana promotions?
I will. I do not have anything planned for that. Right now, I have no bookings with JCP. That's not anything against JCP. Obviously, I love Joe Cazana. I spent the weekend. It's my Papa Joe. I love him. He was on the phone with Miss Sandra, his wife, this weekend and said, Paul, come talk to Miss Sandra's on the phone, because I legitimately call them Papa Joe and Miss Sandra always. So, that is definitely something that I would love to work with them. My schedule's so full right now, it's almost like trying to fit pieces into a jigsaw puzzle.
Sure.
Alliance Gold, I saw your question. Any chance we'll see Money, Power, Respect in the NWA? I do not think so. I will tell you that over this past weekend, I worked with Coastal Championship Wrestling with CCW during our partnership. I will be doing a lot of appearances, I think, in 2024 with CCW. It's been very important to me as individual goal to work the territory of Florida. That is the territory I most often viewed and went to see live as a teenager growing up there. I grew up in Florida. I graduated high school in Florida. Championship Wrestling from Florida was my home territory for most of my teenage years before going away to college. And I'm very excited to be working there. And we're going to see a very different Pollo Del Mar than what we got to see in NWA. NWA got a very specific character, and Championship Wrestling from Florida and CCW Coastal Championship Wrestling is getting what I consider much more of my indie character, a representation of me, very heel oriented character. I loved it, and I love that character. I love my NWA character as well, but I loved the opportunity to work with some new talent there, and they partnered me up with some people in a great tag team. I don't think I'm at liberty to say who that will be just yet, but I will say this: my debut in Florida as a talent was partnered with two incredible up-and-comers from CCW, taking on your 2023 NWA Crockett Cup winners, Knox and Murdoch. It was a slobber knocker. It's going to be something to watch, and it begins a trajectory for me in CCW that I'm extremely excited about.
Will there be continued events, co-promoted events with Coastal Championship Wrestling, or was this more of like a one-off?
I think this was a one-off. I do think that the door is certainly open, and whether it's co-branded the way this one was, or whether it is more of a CCW presenting the stars of the National Wrestling Alliance, I think the latter is more likely, that CCW will now have relationships with a lot of talent, and we'll be seeing NWA talent working there. They are not a formal territory of the National Wrestling Alliance. Right. So that is what I think we're going to see. What was the question about WLW?
Yeah.
I don't know about that event off the top of my head, Chris Drummond, the NWA and WLW show. If more information becomes available about that, what show is that, Chris? The only NWA specific show I know about for March is March 2nd, Hard Times 2024 in Dothan, Alabama, which, by the way, I will tell you, is going to be, if you are a fan of NWA and you want to get a signature live event, incredible opportunity. Go to that show. Tickets are already flying for that show, and that is not me towing the party line. That is the truth. It is going to be, I think, the energy at Dothan, at the Dothan Civic Auditorium, I think is what it's called.
Yeah,
is going to be through the roof. That signature live event is going to be fire.
I was looking for my graphic for Hard Times, which is not set up yet, but I do know that we do have some NWA themed matches that are coming up. Of course, we've been talking about Kylie and Kenzie's first endeavor. As of course, they grew up as daughters of wrestling promoters, but now they're taking over the show. Off the Hook, which will feature the NWA Women's World Champion title defense, as Kenzie Page will take on Jada Stone. We also know that's next weekend. This weekend, we know that our world's heavyweight champion will be going north of the border to Greektown Wrestling as he defends the title against Channing Decker. And then, of course,
Channing Decker sure looks like Kenny Omega.
Let's pull that up again. Yeah, I mean, I definitely see the resemblance for sure. And then, of course, then also next weekend, the big event down in Cleveland, Ohio, the NWA Exodus Pro event. We already know some of the matches. The Slime Balls will be taking on Luke Curtis and Carson Drake. Of course, this will be a good match for our friend Noob, as Tiffany Nieves will take on Natalia Markova. We have a tag team match featuring Rex Brody and J-Rock taking on Faith and Nothing. Then I think this is a very big special attraction match. Lord Crew will be taking on Richard Holiday. And of course, in the main event, EC3 will be defending against Ashton Day. Sorry if the graphics are a little off. I literally ripped them off their Instagram earlier today.
They look great.
I tried my best. But yeah, so I feel like, there is NWA events coming, of course. And then February 8th is the Papa Joe event with the Joe Cazana Promotions. We know that Silas Mason will be headlining that event. And of course, there's going to be more coming too. I see there are more comments here in the chat. And if Poyo, if you have time, we'll get to them.
Yeah, I just want to say that the only reason I'm not on that Exodus Pro show, I believe, is because I was already booked, just so you know.
That's fair.
In terms of, Exodus Pro has a significant amount of interest in bringing Pollo Del Mar in as a talent. That was supposed to happen for the very first show to kick off. There was a scheduling conflict on my part that made that impossible. And there's been a scheduling conflict on my part every show since. That particular weekend, I will be in Tampa for Effie's Big Gay Brunch. So that prevented me from being available. And that's been locked in since well before this was even, Exodus Pro was even with NWA.
I have to ask this the correct way. Was there any heat put on you after Effie's comments about Billy and everything with the NWA from Billy or the NWA?
None. I mean, no, there's no reason for me to have heat because, I don't speak for Effie. Effie doesn't speak for me. Effie is his own individual. And was it brought up to me? Yes. Did anybody blame me for it? Not at all. I don't, I am somebody who, let's just say that even if these were two of my closest friends, I wouldn't be in the middle of their beef anyway. I would be very clear to people, like, I love this person and I love this person, and their relationship has nothing to do with me. That is how grown people handle drama.
Sure.
These are two grown-ass men who, whether they have a problem or they're best friends, that relationship doesn't have a damn thing to do with Paul Pratt. Paul Pratt has a relationship with Effie. I have a relationship with Billy Corgan. I respect both of them, and what they think of each other does not determine what my relationship with either will be.
I think that's a very well said answer. Another question for you from our pal DCAM, Old Grumpy Cloud, is why is it the women's division is the best in wrestling?
our women's division is the best in professional wrestling. And I think that I can speak to why on multiple levels. First of all, we have some of the most incredible talent you will find anywhere. Our women are top-notch athletes, and even more importantly, they are top-notch entertainers who are passionate about professional wrestling. These are not individuals that we have found outside of the realm of professional wrestling and guided and trained to be professional wrestlers. These are people who've aspired from very young ages to be part of professional wrestling. They've wanted to be women's wrestlers. They've wanted to be part of the legacy of the National Wrestling Alliance. So we have their passion and their drive to succeed as wrestlers. I think it's valuable and wonderful to find talents who maybe fall outside of the realm of professional wrestling and guide them to fall in love with wrestling. But I think you get a completely different kind of talent if they're people who've aspired to do this for a very long time. So there's that. And when you partner that with the National Wrestling Alliance's dedication to crafting the best environment for women, specifically in the world of professional wrestling, you're going to see people succeed. And when you look at the way the National Wrestling Alliance presents our women, they are presented in a way that is, in my estimation, the best in professional wrestling. We do not ever get docked by people who want to be critical of wrestling shows for having underrepresentation of our women's division. Our women are a focal point of our television product on an ongoing basis. They are a focal point of our roster on an ongoing basis. They are a focal point of the team that makes NWA succeed on an ongoing basis. And all of those things translate to what you see on our signature live events, on our broadcasts, on our social media, and in our team if you get the privilege to ever experience it from within. These women are integral to what we are doing in the National Wrestling Alliance, and more so integral in the way we want the National Wrestling Alliance to be seen going forward.
Can we just admit that Misa Kate is a national treasure and should be treated as such?
Like, look, I love Misa as much as the next person. And I will tell you that Misa had a couple matches that I got to witness over the past weekend where she did some serious ass kicking.
I got to see her in Columbia, Illinois, ahead of the St. Louis pay-per-view, the 75. And that won me over. Seeing her on that show, I've always thought she was good, and her and Maddie as a tag team were phenomenal. I miss Maddie a lot, but wow, she knocked my socks off, and I thought this is someone special, and I can't wait to see what's next for Misa. As well as, look, we have a very stacked women's roster. Kenzie has grown so much in such a short amount of time, and I think the world of her. Everyone knows that I'm a big fan of Ella Envy. Kylie, I think, is going to shock people on how good she gets as a wrestler. I'm blown away every time I see her, and I think she's really good for someone her age. Now it's like it's not even that; it's just she's really good. She's really good. I really feel like that women's division, and you throw in, of course, Markova, Ruthie J, Taylor Rising. There is a lot of good there, and I'm excited to see what's next for that women's division.
I love our women's division. You know, obviously, given the persona that I am outside of this, you know, women in general are very, very drawn to me. So I have a very special relationship with our women's division. And I love our talent roster top to bottom. We have such an incredible roster of talent. And I saw that that people were talking about Rekha Tahana being with us, and she was in fact with us yesterday. I'm sorry, not yesterday, Sunday.
Yeah.
That was a great opportunity to be introduced to somebody new. I enjoyed that. We have incredible things coming up for the women's division. And I think personally, you know, I always am so frustrated. And if you go and read my current Pro Wrestling Illustrated column, I'm always frustrated because people always talk about the Page sisters and never talk about Ella Envy. Ella Envy is one of the across the board most entertaining people I've ever witnessed. There's something so supremely entertaining about Ella. She cracks me up at every turn, and she rings my bell in a different, in the way of what I want to see from women's wrestling, in the same way that Chelsea Green always has. So she's incredible. Miss Star, we're seeing great things from Samantha, aka Miss Star. We're getting to see a lot of new faces start to come in and be elevated. Tiffany Nieves, and I'm not going to give any results, but Tiffany and Kenzie at Paranoia. Wow, what a great match.
La Princesa. Yeah, she's
yes.
Please understand, I didn't mean to shortchange anyone by leaving them off that list.
No.
There is an abundance of talent. And I mean, like, I see the guys here in the chat, they're like, oh, Jay likes Ella Envy, he's got a type. No, she is fantastic. And like, sure. when you watch her visual, like, real quick, you guys got to see it. I'm sure you've seen it 100 times, Paul, but like, just look at her face.
Can you believe that there are some people in this world that did not tune in to the Alliance Vlog podcast? Shame on you! Shame on you! My name is Ella Envy, and I'm one half of the NWA Women's World Tag Team Champion. And I'm Kenzie Page, the other half of the NWA World Women's Tag Team Champion. And you better go listen to the Alliance Vlog, what is it called? The podcast, period. You're ugly. You're Empower approved. All right.
That wasn't rehearsed. That wasn't like they took 15 minutes to think about it. I literally said, here's some money. Can you guys do a plug for my podcast? And they said, yes. And I gave them hats, and they wore the hats. And I put my camera and pointed it in their faces, and they came up with that like in a couple of seconds. I was so impressed then, and I still am impressed by that now.
Ella's facials, in the world of professional wrestling, facials tell stories. Your facials, if you got really good facials, you can't. if you've got a really great facial expression, you can tell a story. You can get over. It's money. And Ella cracks me up, and everything about her is hilarious. And that's, as a person, I will tell you, she's just hilarious. So she's always underrated. I think that the reason I want to shine a spotlight on her is because everybody universally across the board is like, Kenzie and Kylie. And by the way, when I first met Kylie, I was like, oh God, I wouldn't want to be the little sister,
right,
to the person who is undoubtedly a future at this time. When I'm talking this, Kenzie was a future NWA Women's World Champion.
Right.
I'm inclined to think that in 2 years' time, Kenzie's going to have to up her game just to keep up with her sister.
On one of the other podcasts, someone said Venus and Serena Williams, because I really feel that nails it. You've got two really good talents, and just because she's little or younger doesn't mean she's not just as good. And like, I honestly feel, just between you and me and everyone that's in the chat right now, I feel like Kylie will be the breakthrough star in 2024.
So I think that Kylie has got such a bright future. And it was mentioned in the chat, the Queen Bees. The Queen Bees are incredible. And when you consider how little in-ring experience they have and to be as good as they are, those are two to watch as well. I adored them this weekend. It was my first time ever working with the King Bees. Did I say Queen Bees? I'm so sorry.
You might have.
I apologize for that. Working with the King Bees this weekend, I adored them. I already adored them from before, but I had never worked with them in person. So that was something. I see big things on the future horizons for them as well. We've got such a great talent roster, male and female, but the women, these ladies are about to, I think that they're really where our bread and butter is. They consistently steal the show every show I'm at.
Although we're now on the CW, I say the NWA is on the CW app. Part of me hopes that at some point down the road, a talent comes out to the Dawson Creek's theme song.
That'd be pretty funny.
Paul, it has been amazing having you on the show today. We've gone 44 minutes overtime, which is a lot longer than a normal Tuesday show. And everyone is still here in the chat, and I almost don't even understand this because that never happens. What do you have coming up in the next few days, few weeks, few months that you can plug, that you could talk about? Earlier in the chat, our friend Lamb said that you're going to be hosting an event. I forgot where it was, but he plugged it.
Yes, Lamb pointed out the fact that I'm going to be at Alpha Wrestling in Chatsworth, California on the 29th of February. By the way, which is crazy because I'm there the 29th of February, and the next day I'm pretty sure I'm in Dothan, Alabama. So, so what I've got going on here, let's see. January 19th, I'm in Petaluma, California for Phoenix Pro Wrestling. January 27th, I'm at Big Gay Brunch in Tampa. February 3rd, I'm at Realm of Warriors in Antioch, California. February 9th, I'm in Kissimmee, Florida for Coastal Championship Wrestling. And February 10th, I'm in Fort Lauderdale for for Championship Wrestling from Florida. February 18th, I'm at Wrestle Drag in Phoenix, Arizona. The 29th, Chatsworth, California for the Alpha Wrestling that we mentioned. March 2nd, Dothan, Alabama, NWA, Hard Times 2024, boom. And then, it's 15th of March, Petaluma, California, 16th of March, San Jose, California for Underground Wrestling Alliance, 23rd of March, I'm going to be in Palm Springs, California. I've got a schedule that doesn't stop. This dog right here hates it. Because you're obsessed with your dad. You're obsessed with your dad. He hates it. He cried for like a half hour straight the moment I returned. And now he won't leave me alone because he's afraid I'm going to leave again.
Yeah, that's
days at a time, doesn't he? I'm sorry.
By the way, I'm not gonna be able to make this Palm Springs show.
It's all right. It's okay.
It's gonna be my 10-year-old's 11th birthday, so
that would be your 11-year-old then.
Well, she's 10 until she's 11, right?
Exactly. Paladin says, I wish we knew who was under contract. So most of the contracted talent tell you they're under contract, don't they?
Joe Alonso manifested it for over a year before it happened.
Alonso's under contract. Tiffany Nieves is under contract. Who are you questioning?
Miss is under contract. I'm not really sure who everyone is. To me, that's never been an important thing because, if you're under contract, then we'll see you under contract. And, one of the things.
If you're not under contract, you're trying to get under contract. And it honestly, one of the beautiful things about NWA is that there's a lot of contracted talent who is phenomenal and a tremendous amount of non-contracted talent that are equally phenomenal, but they're still at every show.
Billy said when all of this started at that press conference that I was lucky enough to be at, I think it was on September 30th, before the premiere TV taping of Power, where he had specifically said that he envisioned a core roster surrounded by a carousel of talent, meaning, and I'm as close to the words he used as I possibly could be without saying them verbatim. His idea then, and as I think it should be now, is that you're going to see talent come, you're going to see talent go, and that's okay. I know Polka Dot Pam loves Chris Adonis. We love Chris Adonis, but it's okay for him not to be there right at this moment. Maybe he'll be back later. Maybe he won't. It's okay. There's still a phenomenal list of talent. Earlier, I saw someone say something about Ray Fury. I very much enjoyed Ray Fury, and I hope he's on every program going forward. But if he's not, that's okay. We'll catch him on the next one. That's the kind of a cool thing about having that talent that's able to come in and come out. And who knows, maybe at some point down the road, we'll see some bigger names show up on the roster for a few shows and leave again. And we had Scott Steiner show up in the NWA for a hot minute before he left. I don't see a problem with that. I don't see that as being an issue. Zicky Dice showed up for the season 15 of Power, and he was there, and then now he's gone again. Maybe he'll be back later, maybe not. I don't feel like that's a detriment to the success of the program.
So, I think that for people who want to see who NWA has the potential to invest in, go to nationalwrestlingalliance.com, click on the roster page, and scroll through. Those are people that we are invested enough in on some level that they're on our website as a roster member.
Yeah.
You know, we have so many people. The one thing I will say that sometimes I think is a challenge for us is that we do have an incredible number of people who work with us in either a peripheral fashion or ongoing fashion. And it's challenging with the amount of hours of television that we produce for everybody to be covered as much as other people would like. Tell the NWA via socials who you would like to see more of. If
in the most polite way too.
Yes, please. Chris Drummond, I absolutely will be in Philly during Mania weekend. That is the weekend. I'm always working with, in addition to NWA, I work with GCW and the Collective, and Effie's Big Gay Brunch 9 will be in Philly that weekend. I am the resident host of Big Gay Brunch, so I will be there. I've got Big Gay Brunch 8 happening the 27th, coming up in 2 weeks, and then Big Gay Brunch 9 right around the corner in Philly. So yes, that's going to happen.
I think this is a good place to stop, considering it's been almost 2 hours. Paul, as always, you're such a kind person to spend your afternoon with us here at the Alliance blog. One of the things I've always say this because I'm humbled by the words that you say and how important this vessel is. And what I always try to be is the voice for the people that are in the chat. And I'm glad, I appreciate that you would come on and spend your time with us, not with me, with us, the collective. So I do appreciate you being here, and every time you've been on before too. I guess there's going to be some NWA content popping off here on YouTube. Paul gave the rundown of that. Is there anything
before we go?
Yeah, let's see what's up next.
Hold on. Do you have an ability, if I send you something real quick, to pop it up on the
Yeah, send it to Twitter and I can pull it up from there.
Yep. Doing it right now. Y'all, I legitimately just got this. And while we're waiting for J. Cal to bring that up, I want to give y'all a little heads up too. I'm very excited because today, Tuesday, of course, NWA Day. Tuesday is NWA Day. But tomorrow on Wednesday, a special lady friend of mine is going to be interviewed by BBC Sport, the sports podcast for British Broadcasting Company. And she will be appearing there. And that's also pretty exciting for me because my first time talking to BBC. I mean, I know my way around BBC.
I knew you were going there. I kind of.
My first time talking to the British Broadcasting Company.
Give me just a second. I'm still working on it. They, for whatever reason, it wanted to save it with a different name, so I have to change the name on it. And
I'm going to send you a special promo for that too, if you want to show that as well.
Yeah,
the British Broadcasting one. So let's see. Any chance let's see, any chance we're going to see while you're doing that? I'm scrolling through the.
Go ahead. That's a good idea.
That Impact. Yeah. Hammerstone. By the way, I stopped watching Impact Hard to Kill to join this chat. And then from the chat, I ended up joining the broadcast. But so I was watching that. I'm in the main event. The match between Josh Alexander and Alexander Hammerstone. Great match. I was surprised, honestly, by the results of that match. But, Alex Hammerstone is somebody I think that could be a benefit of anywhere. I think he would be a benefit anywhere. So let's see. Ash by Elegance in the knockout division. I think that'll be very interesting. Doty's concerned about Hawks RE and PJ. We haven't seen them in a while. I think that there's a lot going on. Doty, a big part of that, I think, is that PJ, right before his last appearance with us, which, as best I recall, was around the Crockett Cup time. PJ had just gotten engaged, and I think he's either planning or in the process of being married.
He got married.
He did get married, so dude's got other things on his mind.
So
not everything is NWA's fault. Oh yes. I will. Media M5 is telling me to plug my Twitch stream. I'll be going live on Twitch at 6:05 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which I do most Tuesdays. 6:05 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Tuesdays. That is 9:05. Oh, look at that. Look at that. That hasn't even been released yet, that image. But right there, the lovely Poyo Delmar will be on the BBC's LGBT Sport podcast on BBC Sport tomorrow. I don't know any details on when that comes out, but it'll be tomorrow, sometime today for us, because they're 8 hours ahead of us. So maybe, well, just whatever. Let's see. There we go. That is the promo graphic for today's Power.
I just imagine everyone who sees this and they're like, LA Knights in the NWA, you know?
Well, like they need to understand that one of the people on that poster is unfortunately dead. So if just showing their picture makes that true, like that means he'd be back with us. Let's show it again.
Yeah, just leave it up for them.
So so I don't think Elegance is the same as Tony Storm. I think it's just a classic gimmick, not in the past gimmick. You know what? It does not matter what somebody does. Somebody's going to draw comparisons to other people all the time. You know, so the reason I'm just, comparison between the former Dana Brooke and her new character being all elegant, getting comparisons to Tony Storm. I saw the same things when Samantha Starr became Miss Star, and they're like, oh, she's being a Tony Storm knockoff. Like, why? Like being a bitch to your assistant is an ongoing gimmick in professional wrestling that existed before there was a Tony Storm. Literally before there was a Tony Storm. Right. That gimmick is so old, and they shouldn't be compared. They don't have to be the same. So yeah. And let's see. Eli Drake, boy, that would Corgan give to have him back right about now. Well, that wasn't, again, that's not like a failure on the NWA. Remember, talent has conversations with other people besides a promotion.
Yeah.
And we are never going to be able to offer somebody a WWE contract.
No, and that's also happened. It's also happened during the pandemic where the NWA was kind of in a holding pattern, and unfortunately for the NWA, like there wasn't anything going on. He's going to take an opportunity that's presented where, again, it's an opportunity. That's not to put down anything that the NWA does or will continue to do. But if he is not under contract and has an opportunity to make a better life for himself, why wouldn't he? We saw Eddie Kingston do the same thing when he went to AEW. Again, an opportunity to grow as an entertainer, as a pro wrestler, and the opportunity to make more money for your family. I mean, I would never fault somebody for taking advantage of those opportunities. If you're not under contract, you have every right to do that, and really you have an obligation to yourself to make the best decision for yourself. And I feel like
always,
with both men, Eddie Kingston and also Eli Drake, they were not under contract. So for them to go to the prospective companies they went to and the success that both of them have had since then, I mean, yes, if anything, it's a testament to whoever was scouting for the NWA prior to Power starting. Like, look at who they picked, look at the names that they got. And those people have gone on to do bigger and better things. I think that's just a testament to the NWA's forethought. Unfortunately, everyone's going to move on at some point, and the NWA is going to continue to grow. But when the opportunities are presented to themselves, they're going to take them.
So, Paladin, I want to address the comment from Paladin saying, like, I agree, Corgan should never have shut down for the pandemic. We bled talent and fans and never got back to, and never got those back. So I just want to point out, Paladin, we're 2 years beyond the pandemic at this point now. And looking back and talking about shoulda, woulda, coulda is absolutely a waste of energy on all parts. Your part, my part, everybody's part. We can look back now with clarity of mind and say, oh, it would have been different if we did this or that, or we had done something different. I want to remind you that in, the period of time that we're talking about, the pandemic, not one person who was alive in the world at that time had ever experienced anything like a global shutdown as we experienced. So not one person had any working knowledge of how to go from point A to point B while the entirety of the world was shut down. You want to talk about making poor decisions or what we could have done something differently. There are people who probably have their spare bedrooms still packed with rolls of fucking toilet paper right now because of the fact that they raced to Walmart and bought everything on the shelves. That person has more to regret than Billy Corgan, who put the safety of his employees ahead of the benefit of the product. Keeping people at home and keeping them safe in a time where none of us knew what the world was going to do is more important than thinking about how am I going to sustain the momentum. And did we lose momentum? And did we lose talent during that time? Absolutely, hands down, we did. But what we did not do is put anybody at risk at a time when people were super fearful.
Oh, yeah.
And it would have been nice if we had the clarity of mind that we do now to say, we could have done this. We might have done that. But we instead said, let's just cap where we're at right now and see where this is going to take us. The mindset that many people had is that this was literally the end of the world.
Yeah.
So why would we what did we need to go forward and do? We didn't have the means to do that. And number two, people were like, F it, I'm going to sit in my Charmin and, call it a day. Everything's done around here.
Yeah.
So, I can't imagine what it must have been like to be a business leader trying to navigate those hardships, because I was an individual. I'm not a family member, a person. I don't have kids that I had to worry about school or a partner that I had to think about or anything. I'm a single individual who lives alone in my apartment. I didn't know exactly how I was going to be getting dinner because the grocery stores and shit were closing down. And I had things to worry about on a personal level. I can't imagine trying to figure out how to run a company and keep it successful during a time when the whole world is questioning, what do we do for the next hour or 24 hours, or how do we make it through the end of the week?
I was somebody who was in that position and it wasn't fun. And, there was, there were programs for businesses, but guess what? Not everyone qualified for those programs. And there was, people were scared. And I know some people never really took it serious. And, that's another conversation for another day. But at the end of the day, I agree with what you just said. I think in terms of what the NWA sacrificed, again, for the sake of people's well-being, I think is a much greater prize than being able to run with the momentum. And let's just say if the pandemic had been worse, let's just say a contracted wrestler to the NWA did get sick or did cause someone else to get sick. I don't know about you, Paul, but I lost people. I lost people that I knew. I don't know how good of a conscience I would feel about knowing that it was my responsibility to run this promotion and to have somebody contract the virus, someone give someone else the virus and lose a loved one because of it. Like
there are a lot of things that you have to look at here, we're looking at things as fans when I'm saying that perspective, I don't have any feedback from Billy Corgan. I wasn't even particularly active with the NWA during that period of time. I was a fan, you know what I mean? I was as much a fan of NWA then as anybody who's watching this. I wasn't working with them at that moment. But I just think about the emotional toll. One of the things that I think across the board we can acknowledge is that it was during that period of time that we lost Question Mark, right? And like as a big fan of his contributions to NWA, we lost Question Mark, and we were not aware that he had existing perhaps health issues that were, you know, kind of ongoing at that time that could have made him really susceptible. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in Paladin, I saw, you know, you mentioned your uncle and your grandmother, and that those are terrible losses, and many people lost people as relates to COVID, and it was just such a terrifying time. I don't think there's a soul with our company or who watches our company that now doesn't wish we had been able to maintain that incredible momentum that we had during the pandemic. You know, prior to the pandemic, we wish we had such incredible momentum, and I think all of us would like to have been able to continue that. And I think that all of us who work now, you know, when we see people talking about how our growth over the past few years has not been as fast as they'd have liked it, doesn't want to just go, dude, we were growing like crazy and then the world shut down and we have to like get back on the horse.
Yeah.
You know, we have to figure this out again because we had busted our ass and we had that upward trajectory and we were our legs were cut out from underneath us. That's not our fault.
No.
You know, it's a testament to NWA that we didn't go the way of so many things in the world, which was that they never came back from the pandemic.
And that was a very legitimate, real concern too. Like, I
There's
don't think
always-
there was a point in time during the pandemic and shortly thereafter where the NWA programming was removed from YouTube. A lot of people thought that was going to be the end of it. There was a lot of people who thought that it wouldn't make it back onto TV. But we got to wrap this up because I do have some other commitments I have to get to. So, you know, Paul, I do really appreciate you being here, man.
I always love talking with you, Jay, as a person, as a fan, as a wrestling personality. No matter how we interact, I always love it.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. And then everyone else, the other Alliance guys will be on tomorrow. I'm sure they're going to talk a little bit about what's going on with the United Wrestling Network. I'm sure they're going to be talking about what happens tonight on Power. And I don't know what we're going to talk about on Thursday. We might just ask Paul to come back on and see what he's doing if he wants to join us. But until next time, guys, we will see you. I should have had the video ready. We'll see you at the matches. Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.